Demetrius Terrence Frazier spent more than 3 decades behind bars, including 14 years on Alabama's death row. On February 6, 2025, at age 52, he was executed via nitrogen hypoxia at Holman Prison, becoming the first person put to death in the state that year. His story didn't end with his last breath. It began much earlier on a November night in Birmingham, when a woman was sleeping peacefully in her apartment, unaware she would never wake up again. This documentary contains factual descriptions that may be sensitive to some viewers. It is presented with care, respect, and the intention to inform. Demetrius Terrence Frazier was born on October 29, 1972 in Michigan. He was raised by his mother Carol and a sister in an environment marked by instability and neglect. He was at times under social services care and from a young age exhibited delinquent behavior, sneaking out at night to commit theft and dropping out of high school early. Before reaching adulthood, he already had charges for carrying concealed weapons, breaking and entering, and probation violations. He was sent to the W.J. Maxey Boys Training School where he earned his GED. Yet it wasn't enough to redirect his life. By age 18, he had an extensive criminal record. By 19, he would become a murderer. On the night of November 27, 1991 in Birmingham, Alabama, 40-year-old Pauline Brown slept on her apartment couch while the television flickered, casting a blue glow across the room. She had been working late the previous night. Outside, Frazier wandered aimlessly. Spotting the light, he decided to break in. He carefully removed the window screen and slipped inside silently. He moved through the apartment like a shadow, rifling drawers in search of money. He found a few wrinkled bills, about $10. Then he found Pauline still sleeping. He woke her, demanded more money, and she handed over $80. He then raped her at gunpoint. She begged for her life, spoke of her family, begged him to let her go. But he did not stop. He shot her in the head. He stepped outside briefly to ensure no one heard him. Returning, he confirmed she was dead. He searched for more money, ate something, and vanished into the night. He discarded the gun along the way. The next morning, her co-worker Tyrone Mitchell waited outside her home. She was supposed to pick him up for work. When she didn't show, he went to her apartment. Pauline's car was still parked there, but the place was dark and silent. With the help of 2 maintenance workers, he opened a window and entered. He found Pauline lying face down in her bedroom, lifeless. She was a mother of 2 daughters and had recently become a grandmother. Her first grandchild had been born only weeks earlier. She would never know them. On March 8, 1992, in Detroit, tragedy struck again. 14-year-old Crystal Kendrick was later found deceased in an abandoned house. She had faced instability after being separated from her mother, who struggled with addiction. Friends remembered her as quiet, kind, and respectful, but without guidance at home, she began slipping through the cracks. That day, her path crossed with Frazier. Authorities reported that she was trying to escape when she was fatally shot. Her story ended in that forgotten place, and Frazier left without looking back. Following Kendrick's murder, Michigan police quickly identified Frazier as a suspect. He was arrested that same month. While in custody, he first confessed to killing Kendrick and then to murdering Pauline Brown. His trial in Michigan began in 1992. Frazier faced charges of murder and raping 8 women. He attempted to suppress his confession, claiming emotional manipulation, asserting that Detective Monica Childs had seduced him and promised he wouldn't be returned to Alabama. The court dismissed his claims. On April 8, 1993, he was convicted of first-degree murder and weapons possession, receiving 2 life sentences. In October, he was again sentenced by Michigan courts for 2 rapes and an armed robbery preceding Kendrick's murder. He received 2 more life sentences plus 60 to 90 years. In Alabama, he faced capital murder charges. On June 5, 1996, he was found guilty of murder during a robbery and murder during a rape. While the verdict was being read, he threw a pen at the jury, comprised mostly of white jurors, and accused them of racism. On June 7th, the jury voted 10-2 in favor of the death penalty. On August 8th, Judge Mike McCormick formally sentenced him to death for Pauline's murder and to life imprisonment for the rape. During the first 18 years of his sentence, Frazier remained in the custody of the Michigan Department of Corrections, serving his multiple life sentences at Alger Maximum Correctional Facility. However, despite Michigan having abolished the death penalty in 1846, becoming one of the first states to do so, Frazier still had a pending capital conviction in Alabama, where the death penalty was legal and regularly enforced. In 2011, after years of waiting, a formal agreement was reached between then Michigan Governor Rick Snyder and his Alabama counterpart Robert J. Bentley. This agreement authorized Frazier's transfer to the Alabama prison system to serve his death sentence. Thus, nearly 2 decades after being sentenced to death, Demetrius was moved to Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, a prison known for housing death row inmates and having its own execution chamber. While in Alabama, Frazier filed a series of appeals before various judicial bodies. On January 10, 1999, the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals rejected his first formal attempt to overturn his death sentence. Months later, on December 30, 1999, the Alabama Supreme Court upheld that decision and dismissed his appeal. Frazier tried again in 2003, but on February 28th of that year, his request for review was denied once more. Years later, on October 25, 2011, the 11th Circuit Court also rejected his appeal, paving the way for his transfer from Michigan. Finally, on October 1, 2012, the United States Supreme Court denied any possibility of federal relief, leaving his execution in the hands of the state of Alabama. In parallel, Frazier became involved in several legal actions against the execution methods used in Alabama, particularly the use of midazolam in lethal injections. In 2015, he was one of 5 inmates who sued the state, arguing that administering high doses of this sedative was unconstitutional. They claimed it did not ensure immediate unconsciousness and could cause unnecessary pain and suffering. He also requested to be executed by alternative methods, such as firing squad or hanging, options that were rejected by the federal judiciary. Amid growing controversy, in 2018, the state of Alabama approved the use of nitrogen hypoxia as an alternative method of execution. Frazier was one of the inmates who opted for this method, which involves depriving the body of oxygen through the inhalation of pure nitrogen gas. In his final hours, Frazier received visits from his mother and sister, who stayed with him until the end. His last meal was from Taco Bell, a 5-layer burrito, a chicken supreme chalupa, crunchy beef tacos, nachos with dip, and a Mountain Dew. At 6:00 p.m., he was escorted to the execution chamber. As the nitrogen gas began to flow, witnesses observed shallow breathing followed by intermittent spasms. At 6:21 p.m., his body stopped moving. 13 minutes after the procedure began, medical personnel confirmed that his heart had stopped. He was officially declared dead at 6:36 p.m. In his final statement, Frazier apologized to Pauline Brown's family and to the African American community. He then publicly criticized Governor Whitmer for not intervening in his case and urged the media to contact a former Michigan detective, claiming that his confession in the Crystal Kendrick case had been false. His final words were, "Detroit, I love everyone on death row, let's go." Following the execution, Governor Kay Ivey stated that Alabama had acted within the law and reaffirmed that rapists and murderers had no place in society. "Justice has been served," she said. Attorney General Steve Marshall called Frazier a monster who left behind a trail of violence and asserted that his punishment was fair and proportional. Frazier's defense, in turn, condemned both states. They accused Michigan of failing to protect one of its citizens and criticized Alabama for denying clemency and executing a man who, in their view, no longer posed a threat. To them, justice had been confused with vengeance. This case is filed, but your comment could reveal new evidence, and with a like and a subscription, you'll help uncover new cases. For now, this story is filed. Choose the next case file and continue the investigation.